Hello and welcome to another episode of Seddon and Laceys Comic Stash. And this week we are going to be going over the first of the Batman One Bad Day run with Tom King's Riddler Origins.
I almost, Chris, sung a really shit song then. I I can't remember who performs it, and what stopped me is I couldn't remember the lyrics. But it's something like "You've had a bad day," and I thought that would fit. And then I went, "Well, one, you don't remember the lyrics, and two, what a shit song. Why would you go into something with a terrible song?" But yes, we had at least one bad day since we last recorded, didn't we? at least.
So, as is tradition, before we go into the topic, let's go to our corners of despair and misery and downright disgracefulness.
Hopefully, joy and happiness and greatness, Chris.
Is
Hopefully.
once we hear the theme.
So, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to get you to go first with Reading Corner because my Reading Corner is a little bit cheaty this week. So, I want to actually hear about some Reedy comics first.
So, Reading Corner of this week, I have read the 6-issue run of He-Man Thundercats.
I was thinking what we were going to talk about, and I totally forgot that you were tweeting about that, and I totally forgot how fascinated I got with the idea of it from your tweets. So I'm glad you reminded me, and I'm glad you're talking about it.
So yeah, this is all my 80s cartoon needs crossed over into a 6-issue run. It's from 2016, 2017. Let me just grab the app up because I can't remember who wrote it because I'm a terrible, terrible person.
Memory's sort of like a really hard thing, isn't it? Like, this is the modern world we live in now, and it's one of the most difficult things ever is to remember stuff because you don't need to anymore because we have devices, we have the internet. Who needs to remember anything?
It's now actually going into the issue.
I'm just trying to get it up on that there internet at the same time. He-Man, Thundercats. Freddie Williams was the artist, and it was written by Lloyd Goldfine and Rob David.
There you go.
And yeah, 2016 going into 2017. So I guess it probably started towards the end of the year and finished up in the next year.
Yeah. So Skeletor and Mumra are being as evil as you'd expect.
To give him his full name, Mumra, the ever-living. Terrible thing to put out on the internet, and probably something that will get us taken down. But in a younger version of myself, when I was a bit more of a twat, I used to work with a girl. Me and one of my colleagues used to refer to as Mumra, the ever-living, for no reason. Didn't look like Mumra or anything like that, but just we decided that every time she walked past her desk, we would say, Mumra, the ever-living. I hope she's happy now, wherever she is, though, and she doesn't have to deal with twats like young me anymore.
So Mumra wants, as always, to destroy the Thundercats. So is off to Eternia to get He-Man's Sword of Power so he can take over. Skeletor also has a plan to take down He-Man once the orb from inside Castle Grayskull double crosses Mumra to get the sword, mashes Mumra up and has him into an elixir and drinks him. So we get at least 4 issues of Mumra and Skeletor being the same person and having an internal conflict with each other, which turns it out to be at the end they end up as Mumator or Skelra, depending on which hero is talking, and looks fucking stunning.
I mean, it sounds absolute lunacy as well, doesn't it? But kind of intriguing lunacy. Cool, quite fun sounding lunacy, but lunacy all the same.
Yeah. And obviously, Thundercats and He-Man are trying to battle back and get the Orb of Power. All your favorite characters are here. Everything is as you'd expect for this sort of a thing. Um, it is just nostalgia and in the feels, and yeah, 6 issues is a perfect length for it. It doesn't need to be any longer. I wouldn't want more of it. It is a great little standalone. There you go, nostalgia hit, and yeah, amazing. And if you go on to my side of the pod channel Twitter, you will see in the reading challenge section of the covers and stuff. The cover for issue 5 is fucking stunning. That is an absolute beast. And yes, said magic it into the screens
I'll do some magic
for everyone to see that. But yeah, that is an amazing cover, and yeah, it's just fun. It's a fun little 6 issue run, and just hits me all in the nostalgic feels.
I saw the cover art, obviously, because I saw you put them up on Twitter. How does the art inside match? Is it as good? Does it keep up with kind of the stand and the style of the covers?
Yeah, obviously some of the smaller panels it suffers a bit because it's the size.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of big 1, maybe 2 panel mass pages where it is visually stunning, and especially some of the bigger fights where you get all of the evil of He-Man and Thundercats going against the Masters of the Universe and the Thundercats. Some of them are fucking stunning, and some really, really cool stuff with Mumra and Skeletor.
How do our heroes fare in this? Because I heard you obviously talk a lot about the villains, but like, do we get screen time for, or is it like pretty much like Lino and He-Man out, or do the surrounding cast? Do we get sort of Tina and Panthro time in it?
It is a lot of Lino and He-Man, but the supporting cast do get their time and they work with each other. So, like, Master in Arms is with Panthro and Cheetah, and they have a fun little sort of bit where they're trying to fire rockets and stuff and it not working. Schnarf and
Schnarf gets
Orko.
killed?
No, Schnarf does not die.
Wowzers.
Schnarf and Orko have a few moments together. There's one bit where Battlecat gets given the power of Thundercats and turns into a fucking beast.
I was going to say, yeah, because you forget, and I say you forget, until like the concept of this, you didn't really put them together. But of course, you've got Thundercats, and then you have Battlecat. I can't. Does he cringer it up at all at any point? Do I get my weak cringer Battlecat moment, or
no? There's a few bits where he's like obviously nice and sort of caring for Adam when he gets hurt, because a bit early on he loses the hero power when he loses his sword.
They love a bit of that, didn't they? Like obviously in the cartoon, but even in like the recent kind of Netflix one, it's very much He-Man staple, that, isn't it? Of here's this uber powerful person, let's depower him straight away and see what happens then.
But yeah, as I said, it is a fun little run. I knocked it out in a couple of nights. I was like reading a couple of issues a night. And yeah, get on your Marvel or your DC Infinite universe.
Well, that's the thing. When you said this one, I thought, are you just doing this to troll me? Because DC Universe Infinite update still not available, the app for me on my iPad, which is an old iPad to be fair, but I am also conscious that I'm paying them bloody money to have this service, and I waited almost a month for customer services to get back to me with and I've mentioned this to you, with a message of almost, yeah, we know, we'll fix it at some point. Yeah, not the best customer service experience so far. However, I have loved using the app when it worked. You know, it's great. Yeah. It's great to have that many comics at your fingertips. But yes, unfortunately for me, not accessible. And I know there are other ways to do it. However, because I do most of my reading through the iPad, you then also can't use the browser because it recognizes you've had the app at a certain point, so it tries to open the app that won't open every time I try and do that. So yeah, it's
See,
been,
I put the app on Sarah's iPad. It works perfectly fine for me.
yeah, fuck you. Yeah, but yes, I think when I can get back onto DC, I will add it to the list. I've got quite a chunk of DC that was already on that list. I think I was up to, I was going to say 200, but that makes it sound like it's 200 issues. Some of them were just complete runs as well. So yeah, probably a couple of thousand issues that I've got queued up in my list. But I'll add it there, and I'm sure I'll get to it at a certain point because it does sound good. It does sound fun.
Yeah, it is definitely worth the hour or so that it takes you to bang through it.
Yeah, and sometimes, as you said, like it's that you want the nostalgia kick, don't you? You know, they were cartoons that we loved as kids. I mean, adding a fucking Transformer in this as well, and you've got the Holy Trinity as far as I'm concerned. But yeah.
But no, I think more that crossover would be Mask and Transformers.
See now I know this is the comic stash, but now we're in that. I really didn't get on with Mask much. Great theme tune, but as a cartoon, it kind of bored me. Too many humans, and but too many kind of just relatively normal humans. I know it was all about the vehicles, but no, give me a Thundercat, give me, and I know He-Man-esque. Well, a lot of them were kind of humans, but there was lots of non-humans in there. And of course, Transformers, robots, man. Robots in disguise. I don't know if you realise that they disguise themselves. But yeah. I Mask outside of the theme tune, yeah, not so much for me. G.I. Joe, the same. I wonder whether it is like maybe I thought I started to hate humans later on in life, but I'm now starting to wonder whether I've always hated human beings.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, apart from you, obviously, who's lovely.
So, what have you been up to in your corner?
Well, as I say, it's a bit cheaty because I haven't read anything since that we last recorded. It has been actually did some social stuff, which is weird because I don't really go out these days. But I had it like a few nights out and stuff, and hectic time at work for the last week, so I really haven't. However, I lie slightly, so I haven't read anything, and it wasn't on an iPad, which is very different. But I haven't finished it yet. But I did start Attack on Titan,
Ooh.
and I'm part the way through that now, and I have seen some of the first season, and I really enjoyed what I saw, and the the manga very much follows along. So I am probably going to finish that off. I went on a bit of a manga buying spree a few months ago, and did what all good people do when they buy anything that is a book or a manga. I put it in a pile next to my sofa and went, I'll read that one day. So now I'm actually trying to work through that pile. My other second cheaty thing, which I haven't read yet, but I actually have started to go through it. But when I say read, this is actually interactive, or should be interactive. But got me copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
Oh,
I am absolutely terrible at drawing. I always have been absolutely terrible at drawing. My mother, who she can see no wrong in me, she once said to me when I asked her, if I murdered someone and told you I murdered them in cold blood, what would you do? Would you tell the police? And she said, oh no, I'll give you an alibi because you wouldn't have meant it. That's how much like my mother is to me. My mum used to take the piss out of my drawing when I was a kid. That's how bad it is. But I saw someone post it up, and I remember when I was young, it was always advertised in comic books. And I think at the time it kind of didn't come out over here, or certainly not when I was doing it. And I saw someone put an advert for it on Twitter. There's a couple of ones that I follow where they actually just run the ads from the old comics. And I saw it, and I just went, wow, I remember that, and I always wanted that. And I went, well, hang on, you're a grown-up now. You could actually go and see whether you could buy it. And there it was on Amazon. So I picked that up. So I will be going through it more. And do you know what? I'm actually going to see whether I can learn to draw comics the Marvel way. I'm not saying I will show any of it here.
Oh, yes, you are. We are going full fucking Tony Hart art corner.
Well, I might do like couple of probably not one a week, because I probably won't do one a week, but maybe once every couple of episodes, I'll go, oh, this is as far as I've got. This is the quality I've managed to make it to. But yeah, it just tinges of kind of shit. I always wanted that as a kid, and I've got it now. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going through it a bit more. And it is the stuff I've read so far. It is good, and it does logically tell you how maybe to sort of compose a picture, certainly a superhero one. And it talks about. I mean, for me, one of the reasons why it's probably really bad at drawing is like probably all the things I'm bad at in life. I want to be perfect at it straight away with minimal or no effort. But it talks about like kind of how you draw circles and squares to kind of map out where your perspective is, and then you would flesh out kind of what you want in between, and lots of lines and oblongs and things like that. And I'm kind of going, no, once that pencil's hit the page, you ain't rubbing anything out. But of course, this encourages that. It says, you get the framework, and then you add the detailing around it. Then you would take out the framework. So yeah, we shall see. You never know. This could be the start of a burgeoning penciling comic book career. I doubt it though, but maybe, just maybe. But yeah, so in a week of kind of not really going through anything, at least they are kind of tangentially linked comic book things that I've enjoyed, or at least I know I'm going to enjoy coming up.
So at least you did something.
Yeah, and like I sort of say about work and doing some things sort of socially as well, but we do quite a lot of stuff, don't we? We've got lives and things like that, and I guess possibly maybe worth mentioning as well is that we had a couple of reasonably sized comic book releases in the TV shows. We had Paper Girls come out, which is based off of a Brian K. Vaughan image series, which I loved the comic of. So a lot of my free time when I did have it was spent watching that, which I watched it. And I'm pleased to say, from my perspective, I thought it was bloody brilliant. They did a really good job of transposing what was on the page into a TV show, and Sandman as well, which at this stage, I haven't finished Sandman yet.
No, not yet.
But I have watched enough of it to go, I love the Sandman TV show. I think it's wonderful. But I do think probably maybe we can do a little episode on it in the not too distant future when we've finished it, and maybe because it's on DC Universe Infinite, maybe a comparison to I think the first two trades that probably this first season covers.
Well, I've got. Sarah got the first one.
Yeah, the Preludes and Nocturnes, isn't it? Yeah.
They've released a new run of Netflix adorned issues, where they've done it as 4 books instead of the 30th. See, this is where it gets confusing, because she then bought the 30th anniversary of book 2, or book 2 of the 30th anniversary, which is part of the big one that we got that had the Netflix banner on it. So there are so many different ways and different collections of these stories. It may get a bit confusing.
Well,
I can't remember. Stick to a variant.
I can't remember whether we said it on there. I know it was on our I said guilty pleasures. That's the wrong term. Our dirty little secrets list of things that we wanted to read, but we haven't. But as I say, I can't remember. But I did read the first 2 volumes like about a month or 2 ago, and it was the most I'd ever enjoyed those first 2 volumes. I really kind of vibed with it much more this time. So when I went into watching the show, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, I am at least reasonably relatively familiar with, and I am really impressed with how they have told some of those stories in the TV show, bearing in mind they haven't been able to do the linkage with the DC universe proper, which they did at the beginning of the series. But massively impressed. But yes, we'll come back to that at a later date when we've both watched it and do a special on it, or do a show on it. Every show's special, let's be honest.
It is. Yes. So we will go into the reason why we are here and why you have a weird green backlight.
Yep. Well, the Hulk, yeah?
No, it's not One Bad Day the Hulk.
Well, actually, having said that, I wouldn't mind reading One Bad Day the Hulk. I imagine that'd be a fucking bad day.
So it is One Bad Day, The Riddler,
Yeah.
written by Tom King. So this is a series. I don't know how they're officially wording it, but it's basically because Killing Joke is the greatest thing of all time and is basically Riddler Joker's bad day that turns him into a crazy. We are getting a run of 8 origins where it's the what happened to make them the way they are.
We said from an advertising perspective when we saw that this was coming, and some great creative teams across the board on this, but from an advertising perspective, it's quite good because you can link that. You can go One Bad Day, and I think a lot of people would go, "Oh, I know that term from Killing Joke. Let's see." Also, I did think as good as an idea as it was, it also brings a lot of pressure, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden, you're going, "Well, the Killing Joke. What else you got? Come on, creators! How are you going to do an equivalent story or something that even comes remotely close to that?" In all truthful, I don't think any of them really are planning on trying to hit the heights that is the Killing Jokes. I think most comic creators kind of go, yeah, that's brilliant. That like that. I don't really want to try and compete with it, but yes, like the premise being, as my understanding is, across all these series, there will be a focus story on one of the villains, and the creative team are given a degree of carte blanche to kind of go tell something brilliant about this villain.
Yeah. So first things first, amazing cover.
Yes, yeah, beautiful cover design, that isn't it? You'd see that on the shelf, and it would draw your attention in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and from what I've read on the interwebs, it has been rather successful because all of the first runs have gone, and they're doing a second printing.
Ooh.
So that says how well this has gone out of the gates. But what did you think of it?
I guess like let's not bury it. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really really good. It's a standalone story, effectively, isn't it? Although I guess
Yeah.
potentially at the end of it, then they might go and did. Here's the One Bad Day song, and there's something to it. But this is a look at the Riddler, and as you say, it touches on origin elements of the Riddler. Now, I presume most parts of what we see in this haven't been told before or additions in, but like a lot of storytelling in movies and comics, you are seeing the origin interspersed with a current day story where the Riddler has ostensibly murdered just someone randomly, but it's the Riddler, and then there's your mystery element of why did this murder happen and what is Bat's going to do about it. But no, I'm an unabashed Tom King fan, and we said we're going to cover a lot of Tom King, and at some point, and I hope he doesn't unfollow me on Twitter after I say this, there's only one thing I've ever read of his that I didn't like, and we'll get to that at some point because I don't want to just do the puff pieces. But this goes very much into the Tom King written storylines that I really enjoy.
See, this is where I'm going to differ. I wasn't a massive fan of this.
I did wonder. I say wonder. I thought this would be right up your alley, if I'm honest.
See, I liked bits of it. I liked the fact that he's changed his MO and there's no clues, and Batman's sort of going, "What's going on?" I just think, as a whole, it either needed to be longer because it tries to put too much in too little of a page count.
I think it comes in. I think it was 65 pages, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
kind of released as a one shot, but probably just about 3 single issues worth crammed into one. Yeah.
so yeah, I think either this needed to be more pages because I think a lot of it was lots of word heavy, lots of tiny panels that I just don't think helps it as a read. and maybe it's because of how good Killing Time was. This was
Yeah.
a much noticeable drop in quality of story than what we got there. And yeah, I it wasn't I wasn't there sort of ringing its praises by the end of it. I was like,
See, now, by contrast, I think this is much better than Killing Time. However, it's very different. Killing Time is an action movie. This isn't an action movie. Like equivalency. And
yeah.
I think quite often, and you know, for those who haven't seen our Killing Time review, watch our Killing Time review, because we wax lyrical about how much we loved it. So when I say I think this is better, it's comparing something that I really, really liked against something I really, really liked, and just, you know, like one of them comes out as favourite. But no, I would put this above Killing Time for me. But maybe it's the more personal nature of it. And when I say the more personal nature, yeah, you know, Batman's in it. There's a Batman story. There's a part about Batman. Jim Gordon gets a lot of screen time, but this is a Riddler comic, isn't it? And this takes us into the world, the mind, and the ethos of the Riddler. And I think more often than not, I think I do lean towards the character pieces maybe more than I do the action pieces.
See, this thing is, I love me a character piece. You know, one of my we all know what my favorite comic of all time is.
Is it He-Man Thundercats?
No,
No, okay.
unfortunately. But yeah, it was him as a kid. I like that bit. You know, showing why he was so obsessed with riddles, because his logical brain of getting the best grades and it not being pertinent to learning, and just having that teacher try and go think outside the box, then the cheating and still putting the wrong thing in and being pulled out for cheating. So yeah, we get his first murder. But the going back to his dad in current time, just being a weird drunk, I was like, that section dragged for me.
Well, I mean, pacing wise, isn't it? As you say, like, you go back to him as a child. Him as a child at the. I always get confused by the American school system, but let's say high school, but a private high school. And his dad is the dean or whatever, equivalent of headmaster for English readers, and possibly headmaster. But again, can't remember how these things go. And it's about him being a super genius, isn't it? But his dad never being satisfied because he is not scoring the top, and to a large part he's not scoring the top because of this singular class where he has verbatim, almost photographic memory, remembered every word of every book, so he gets 100% on the test, except for the teacher always puts a riddle in at the end, and because he can't, or because at that point he's so fixated on knowledge of learning things but maybe not interpreting things, and you find out his dad was a real bastard.
Yep.
Verbally and physically, but these are kind of interspersed, aren't they? So you jump back to, you get that story quite linear, but it's probably once every 4 or 5 pages you pop back to, and it fleshes out a little bit more and a little bit more of what was happening to him back in his school days, and as you say, up to a point where to impress his father, he cheats and gets the answer to the riddle, and the teacher changes the riddle at the last minute, but he doesn't even bother reading that. He puts the wrong answer in. The teacher calls him out on it, and spoilers, by the way. the teacher calls him out on it and sort of says, "You know, I'm going to tell your dad," and he kills him. But all around that part, I think that was the bit that those are some of the bits that really interested me. It wasn't so much the crime and the death and things like that, but it was the teacher trying to teach him a lesson, but not in a mean way. He was kind of going, because they do that bit, don't they, of going, when you have learned everything and when you have amassed a fortune and when you've achieved everything you want to achieve, what do you think you'll want to be?
Yeah.
And the answer being young, because you can never get this time back. So use this time to also intersperse some fun and have a life in it. And I thought from a message for someone reading it, I thought it is a great message to send out, isn't it? Working hard is important. Getting an education is important, but like never forget that there's a life to live as well that kind of goes around it. He doesn't learn that lesson though, does he? Because he just murders him instead. So yeah, I quite like the flashbacks, and in current time, as I say, like the story kicks off with, and I thought a fantastic first couple of pages for me. What stories that I love do, dropping you in the middle of something. So it is a man having a conversation with his wife, isn't it, about his daughter not wanting to go to soccer practice, and he's at work, so he agrees to leave work early because he never normally leaves work early, and he goes a different route because normally you get the train because he wants to try and convince his daughter to go and do the soccer practice because she likes it really, and just randomly, Riddler, or not randomly as the case may be, but the Riddler kills him when he's outside, and that triggers a lot of questions because he normally has a purpose, doesn't he? They even say early doors, what's the riddle? We don't get it. What's he trying to lead us toward? And throughout the whole of the issue, I almost said series then, throughout the whole of the issue, he does some really macabre and dark things, doesn't he? Like, I mean, the film freak bit I thought was kind of great, and he keeps asking for Batman, but Batman says no, I'm not coming to you, I'm not going to pander to you. We get him convincing multiple of the police officers or the prison guards that are guarding him to kill each other by naming all their children, and said, I'll escape here, which for anyone who's read Batman comics, we all know the bad guys escape, and when I escape, I'm going to kill your families unless you do this. And just this kind of intensity that he doesn't always have, because I was going to say he never has, but there have been people who've told darker tales than before, Tom King especially, but this kind of amping him up to 11 on the bastard scale, it had me hooked all the way through.
Yeah, so it's me. I like bits of it. I like the way that he does clearly still manipulate, and the fact of it there not being a clue is to manipulate Batman at the end. And I get that great ending in Killing Joke is it leaves you as the reader of what's going on.
Yeah.
And this has a similar one.
Yes.
But
yeah.
That to me felt a bit forced.
And it felt a lot more generic, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like obviously it's playing off something, but the beauty of the Killing Joke one is them coming together in the rain, they're laughing and things like that. Whereas this felt a bit more like just an ending panel you get at the end of any Batman story, rather than it being something special.
Yeah, and the whole thing of how Joker gets away from Batman as that if you ever punch me, I'm just gonna go and kill a rando. Like, just made Batman seem a little bit weak to me. Of sort of like just going, well, of course I won't do that, because you're just like, no, wouldn't Batman just batter 10 bells out of him? And
well,
I know we know Batman doesn't kill, but
in and around that though, I mean, don't forget they do the whole bit where his dad says he's an idiot. That's what he tells Batman, and Batman kind of, when he goes to see him, because you find out that actually, and possibly the trigger point for this is he'd killed his mother, but Batman says you're an idiot, and Riddler calls his bluff on it, doesn't it? And goes, I'm not an idiot. I watch you when you sleep. I've always known who you are. I come into your mansion. I know who the Robins are. And so he directly kind of threatens him and his life as well, doesn't he? Because he says, "You keep putting me away, and maybe next time when I come out, I'll kill a Robin." And he even sort of says, doesn't he? So it says, "And maybe I won't pick one of the boy ones. Maybe I'll pick Stephanie or Cassandra and things like that." So I don't know. I like that. That when his level of threat has gone up, he's effectively saying to Batman, "If you don't kill me, but continue to try and stop me, as I will kill random people. I will also kill people close to you. Fuck you, Batman. What are you going to do with that?" I liked it. I thought and again, spoilerific. We probably should have been it. I might put a spoiler bloop, bloop up right before we go into this. But the payoff in the end is this speech. So the Riddler posts this because Batman lets him go. Bruce Wayne goes to see the wife of the person who was murdered, and she's very much, why won't Batman stop him? But she doesn't have the context of it. And then you start to hear about how police won't go near him anymore because they're all so scared. Other crime families are almost, they've given all the power to him because they're now so suddenly scared. The governor won't send anyone in because people in their family have been killed. Maxie Zeus has now stepped down and said he's not a god anymore. So they're really building up that like he has found a new way of doing things, and that is he's become Uber, and everyone's really scared of him. So you get this moment where Batman and Jim Gordon are on a roof discussing a rooftop, obviously discussing the Riddler, and they're saying like Batman says, "I know he's listening to us right now. I know he's got a listening device in that gargoyle because he's outsmarted us, or he thinks he's outsmarted us." And we go through a kind of a whole kit and caboodle of that. And Batman admits he was weak. His weakness is that he didn't think the Riddler would ever change. He would always be this character who wanted to do riddles, but he evolved. And then you get the, let's say, twist or the culmination, which I think is the real payoff for why Batman didn't do anything at that point. And the culmination is Batman says, but he's not smart and he's not a genius because he doesn't realize that I can also change. And he will never would have considered that right now he could be listening to a recording. And that's when you see Batman appear behind the Riddler in a mirror. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was, as I say, schlocky visuals and a jump off of, and a schlocky visual, I'll take that back. Like visual jump from that. But yeah, I thought, what an amazing end to that. It really capped off the whole story for me of going, yes, you even think as an audience member, man, the Riddler has leveled up here and he has figured out a way. But then ultimately, no, Bats turns that on him and says, "No, if you change, I'll change, and I'm still coming for you." And then we get the end of the story. Yeah, I thought it was very, very good for me.
Okay. Another thing with this, the art style.
Loved it.
So, see, I wasn't a massive fan. I wasn't a big fan of this Riddler. The weird bald, but with the green, just sort of guy liner, sort of smear look going on. I don't think that helped for me was how the Riddler looked in this.
So one other thing you said earlier, you know how we've said, we'll go through all the Tom King stuff. Get ready to struggle then, because Mitch Gerads, who draws this with him, is a regular collaborator, and this is the style he draws in. So you may struggle with a lot of the other stuff as well then if you didn't like this art style. And I love him. I think Mitch Gerads is possibly one of my favourite pencilers out there at the moment, because I think his style goes very well with Tom King's storytelling when he tells stories like this.
The thing is, as I said, it might just be that, because as I said, there are a lot of sections of this where there are 12, 16 panels on a page.
Well, you know, I sort of said that something you said earlier, that's the other thing. A lot of the DC, Tom King, Mitch Gerads stuff is laid out with lots of panels on the page. It very much like this sort of panel, lots of dialogue, panel, lots of dialogue, panel, lots of dialogue. So, yeah, I'm suddenly stepping back a little bit from how much you might love some of the Tom King stuff that you've got to go through.
So, yeah, it's one of those yeah, as a thing, I think a lot of it just felt a little bit clustered for it, and just like
Yeah.
just let the visual breathe a little and have a bit of space.
But I wonder, and God, after just saying how much I love Mitch Gerads' art, and I do, does the art need a lot of space in this? Because in a lot of those, they're repeated panels, aren't they? And it actually is the dialogue that they want to get across. You know,
Yeah.
there aren't. This isn't something that's chock full of double page spreads. It's not the
No.
kapow Batman knockout moment. You know, like a lot of this is you are almost seeing the same panel with maybe just a facial expression change over and over again as the dialogue goes. I mean, like early doors in it. One of them is the guy's going down a lift and he's just talking to someone else in a lift, and you know,
Yeah.
like. I think it's great because it's what would happen when someone goes down in a lift, but you're probably not going to have a double page spread of a random normal guy going
Well,
down
no,
a lift having a conversation with someone else, sort of thing.
It's weird. There's times for that it works.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's other times when there are bits that there could have been a bit more space on the page, or you know,
It's certainly a style, isn't it? And I guess if you don't vibe with the style, you don't vibe with the style. But yes, it is a stylistic choice, isn't it? And I guess you live and die on that because yeah, you're right. You could have not had so many panels, and you could have
or even just extend the word count or the page count a bit.
Yeah.
So it's just not as clustered. Because the thing is, this might just be me being dyslexic and how my brain works with reading stuff. That it was very clustered, and at times it was a little bit difficult to read and sort of concentrate on what was going on. Whereas if it may have been, you know, an extra 10 pages, but just take it, no extra content, but just some of those pages where there's 2 or 3 pages in a row of just 16 tiny squares.
Yeah.
Extend them slightly so it isn't as. It might just be for me, and the thing is, it might just be a case of with the Tom King stuff, instead of having physical copies of it, it's a digital one, so I can then do the panel by panel a bit easier. So it may be a me problem more than a.
I don't know. And it might be. You might be right, but I think it is. As again, I go back to. I think it's a stylistic choice and not one that will work for everyone. Because you are right. You know, like a lot of those panels are dialogue heavy, and you can get that much dialogue across over, but you have a high page count, as you say. You have traditional sort of 6 to 8 panels, and you let the actual speech bubbles or kind of thought balloons or descriptive bits have more space on the page. But yeah, there's quite a bit. Certainly, I'll be interested when we get to Heroes in Crisis, because that has, I think, a mixture of both styles. So that one, again, artist and writer the same, but that has probably every other page or every 2 or 3 pages, it has, and it's part of the design of it, is it has almost talking heads panels, and there's quite a lot of them, and everyone's got something to say, and everything's sort of disparate. But in between, I think there's a lot more kind of traditional superhero moments. And when I say superhero moments, but like you do get like the full page spreads and things like that to break it up a little bit. Whereas in this, as I say, I think once they were doing stuff in the past, I think the panels were a little bit, sometimes a little bit more expansive. But yeah, in general, it does follow that format, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like with Tom King stuff, it's like with Vision and Killing Time, they are word heavy, but they're not as clustered.
Well, and you know, like Vision, what, like 12 issues, Killing Time, 6 issues, isn't it? So there is more page count there.
So yeah, it's just one of those. I think this would have helped from an extra 10 pages just to sort of spread it out a little bit easier.
Does it make you want to read more of the One Bad Day specials, or does it make you less inclined to read some of the One Bad Day specials?
I'm not as hyped as I was at first.
Oh God, we really are. We've gone into
Because-
bizarro opposites land here.
Because I'm like, are we gonna get Batman's gonna be at the end with what's gonna happen? End for every single one.
Do you know what? I think we said before they come out, there was a couple that I was interested in because of the characters and the creative teams. But it's exactly that makes me want to buy at least one more, because I want to see if they do that at the end. And I must admit, if they do that at the end of every single one of these, and there's not a bloody good story reason for it, I think I'll get annoyed very quickly and not buy any more. But yeah, I am more intrigued after this one.
And there's one bit in there that is a personal little gripe, but I would imagine this wouldn't be on anyone else's. But if it does sort of come in, I might be a bit pissy. Is that one bit where Riddler makes out that he told Joker to make up the whole one bad day thing as a lynch back to killing joke?
Yeah, I did wonder about that.
If you're gonna do these as a thing, yeah, I get that you're following the idea and the concept of the one bad day, but I would not be touching or trying to link them into that in any way, shape, or form, because that's something that will just piss people off that hold it with reverence if you don't deliver.
So I didn't think it was a terrible idea, but I still wouldn't have done it. Because I know it's one bad day, but it did feel a little bit like, aha, I've got a smarter idea than what was there before. And
yeah,
I'm the same as you. I don't think he messed with Killing Joke there. However, like the kind of the explanatory notes behind it of him kind of going, where do you think Joker got your address from? Like, do you honestly think Joker thinks of this sort of stuff? You know, he phoned me up and da 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 da. Yeah, not horrific, but yes. But I can't see how you do that with any of the others. So like, I don't know, like when the when it's the Bane one, him kind of going, well, despite the fact that I wasn't really around in those days, a random clown fella come up and asked me, and I said, well, what you want to do is shoot someone and cripple them. I think this might be the only place you see it in, but yes, I didn't think it was horrible, but I did kind of go, no, don't. Like, there's adding to classic stories and there's kind of interweaving in between scenes and things like that. But I think I'm with you on that. I thought, don't bother. Like, it feels like you're trying to. You've already called it one bad day. You're already using that to potentially cash in and get more attention on it. Don't try and supersede something that's come before to maybe make your series seem more. And possibly because I loved it so much, it felt a bit out of place. I thought you don't need to make this film more important for me. I think you've just written a really good story, so just go with that.
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, I have got my pre-order in on the rest of the series, so I will get them all.
Do you know what one we get next? I can't remember what it is in the release.
Next is Two-Face, I think. Next.
See, I feel like, and I'm not gonna. I promise I'm not gonna go too much on a tangent here. But for as much as iconically and visually, I know Two-Face, I feel like I've read a lot less Two-Face stories than I have a lot of the other Batman pantheon of villains, and maybe that's because in my early reading career, I was very much I would target people who were from the Batman TV show more so, but yeah, he feels like a character that there's a great story out there. I mean, there probably are some great stories. I'm not saying there isn't, but yeah, one that I just haven't experienced anywhere near as much as some of the others.
And the thing is, with him, the one bad day hopefully isn't going to be the day he gets the acid in his face.
I mean, it was a pretty bad day, but yeah, we know that one, don't we?
I'm hoping that it's something that what turned him into wanting to be a lawyer or something that.
Yeah, another character moment that may well ultimately flesh out why, when that bad day happens, it gives you the flesh to kind of go, oh yeah, I see that job.
Yeah, and there being that sort of thing of like, yes, he was the DA, yes, he was like, you know, well renowned, but he obviously had a bit of a cunt in him.
Yeah.
what was it? What was it that had that little bit of what made him that little bit of a cunt that he was able to suppress until the acid? But where did that seed grow?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping on that one.
Well, the lass who writes it, oh god, I've got it up here somewhere. Mariko Tamaki. I've never read anything of her. She's done a run on She-Hulk.
Okay.
I'm sure there's an Image series. I think it's Image anyway, Lumberjanes, which I've heard good things about. And if it's not Image, I think it's Boom, one of them. But yeah, never read anything. Now, I must admit, I think She-Hulk, and I think people tend to lean into more the comedy, breaking the fourth wall stuff. Although that might just be me fondly remembering the John Byrne years and the latter Dan Slott ones. But it's almost a creator from the very limited thing I've seen there. I kind of go, oh, like wouldn't have thought Two-Face, but again, sometimes that's the best ones, isn't it? Where you get someone with a totally different sensibility, and so right, go full bastard on this, show a really evil character, or show them how they get really evil, or show that human moment. Because again, go back to Killing Joke, and to a lesser extent this, but obviously what they tried to achieve with this is it's about those things that probably will happen to human beings to a degree. And fantastical exaggerations of them, don't get me wrong, but in the case of the Riddler, who hasn't had someone make them feel stupid, or who hasn't want to really try to achieve something and put every effort in, but to be told that they can't, and how you kind of process that.
Enough.
Yeah, and like go back to the many origins of the Joker that are out there, but obviously that Killing Joke one of going, here's a poor bastard who's really trying his best to get by, but is a bit of a hapless fuck who keeps getting caught up in situations that ultimately end up really badly for him. And so yeah, like if they carry on down that road, and as I say, Two-Face tends to fit it. For me, it was a big start. I if anything, from a personal standpoint, if any of the other issues from this One Bad Day run top this, I will be very surprised and I'll be very pleased.
Yeah, so we will come back at the end of the run, or unless one of them in it jumps us out and goes, "Oh fuck, we need to do something on that."
Yeah.
But we definitely will hit an overview of the run when they're all done.
If any of them have a character that matched the light in the background, obviously I'll come back for that just to make myself look like I'm an expert at lighting now. I'm not. No.
So, if you have read One Bad Day, Joker, don't know, put what you thought about it. Engage with conversation. Are you with me and going, eh? Or are you with him and going, it's, the second coming of Jesus?
I did not say that. Nice to see, nice. And we love the comments on here because that is very good and very positive. But outside of that, and I have been running it through it, we've got two accounts on Twitter, one for the channel, one more specifically for the comics. And we quite often on there talking comics, other stuff as well. But come along, give us a follow and chat to us directly on stuff. Because God, we sit in at the moment, because of the way the weather's been. Generally, we'll sit in really hot rooms talking to each other, won't we? So
yes.
If we'll do that in absolute sweat boxes, imagine how pleasurable it is to talk to other people as well and kind of go, brilliant. I can converse with someone without feeling like I'm on fire. And we've got a Facebook group as well, which I would say leans more into TV and movies. But God, I'd love to get some comic book people in there because shit, I like talking comic books.
Mixed it up a bit.
Yeah.
So as always, ring bells, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff.
Tell your friends. Tell your comic book friends.
Yes.
Share the love and the joy of us with your nearest and dearest.
And even people you don't like.
Oh yeah, fuck it. Yeah, even more them. Like if you thought this was shit and you got someone you don't like, bombard them with it.
Yeah.
We'll take the views however we can get them.
So until next time, and we will be back with more very soon. Goodbye.
Bye.